14, I reported my Amish wife for asking for divorce. I regret it every day. The kitchen is cold. 3 in the morning cold. The kerosene lamp on the table is hissing the way it does when the wick needs trimming, and I haven't trimmed it because my hands won't stop shaking. Rebecca's chair is empty. Her shawl is still on the back of it, the gray one, the one her mother made, with the small tear near the shoulder she kept meaning to mend. I can smell the chamomile she boiled last night, still on the stove, still warm almost. I am sitting in the chair across from where she sat 11 hours ago when she said the word, divorce. In Pennsylvania Dutch, soft, like she was asking me to pass the bread. And God forgive me, I went to the bishop before the sun came up. I remember walking, no, wait, I remember running part of the way. The frost was thick on the field, and I could feel it crunch under my boots, and I thought, if I tell them now, they'll fix her. They'll fix this. That's what I thought. At 29 years old, with a wife of 7 years sleeping in our bed, I went and told her secret to 3 men in black coats. I have not slept a full night since. Quick pause. My name is Joseph, and this is, if these stories stay with you, if they remind you of something the old ones knew, subscribe. It's free, and it's the reason I can keep telling them. Tell me in the comments, has there ever been a moment you spoke when you should have stayed quiet? And if you want to go further, a super chat or a membership, that's you telling me these old ways are worth remembering. That keeps this going. Now, back to what happened. In our community, a marriage isn't just between a man and a woman. It belongs to the church. It belongs to the bishop, the ministers, the deacon, the 3 men who carry the ordnung on their shoulders. When something goes wrong inside a house, you don't fix it alone. You bring it to them. That's the rule. Nobody sat me down and taught me that. I just watched my dad do it when my Uncle Amos started drinking. I watched my gross-daddy do it when my Aunt Lydia wouldn't come to church for a whole winter. The men go to the men. The men in black coats decide. And the wife is brought back into the fold whether she wants it or not. But here is what nobody says out loud. The bishop is not your friend. He is not your brother. He is the keeper of the rule, and the rule does not bend for one woman's grief. I knew this. I knew it the way you know the weather, before the storm comes. And still, when Rebecca said the word, my body moved before my mind did. Because in our world, a man whose wife asks for divorce, that man is already half shamed. The other half comes if he stays silent. Dat used to say it plain. A leak in the roof is the whole house's problem. So I told fast. I told before she woke up. I thought I was saving us. I was not. I married Rebecca Yoder in the fall I turned 22. She was 19. She had hands like her mother's. Long fingers, knuckles already a little rough from the garden, a small scar across the back of her right thumb from a canning jar that broke when she was 12. I noticed that scar before I noticed her eyes. I don't know why. I just did. She made tea from things most people walk past. Red clover, raspberry leaf, a little nettle in the spring when her blood ran low. Her grandmother had been a broker's wife, and Rebecca carried that knowing in her hands the way I carried my father's farm in mine. The first 3 years were good. I want to say that clear. We had Eli in the 2nd year, and Anna in the 4th, and I would come in from the field and she would have a cup of something steeping on the table for whatever ached in me that day. Sore back, comfrey, bad sleep, skull cap and a spoon of honey. The winter my chest tightened up and I couldn't breathe right. She made me a mullein tea so strong I could feel it down to my boots. She didn't ask if I wanted it. She just brought it. That was love in our house. That was how she said it. But somewhere between Anna's birth and the 5th winter, something in Rebecca went quiet. Not angry quiet, tired quiet, the kind of quiet that lives behind the eyes. She still made the teas. She still kept the garden. But she stopped humming while she did it, and I noticed, and I didn't ask. A husband in our community doesn't always ask. He waits. He figures she will come back to herself. That's what Dad told me when I finally went to him, 2 winters before the night I'm telling you about. He said, Joseph, a woman's spirit goes under sometimes. Don't poke at it. Let her come up on her own. And I carried that. I carried that like it was a commandment. The night she said the word, the kitchen smelled like chamomile and wood smoke and the lard soap she'd made on Monday. The children were asleep upstairs. The lamp on the table was burning low. She always kept it low after supper to save the oil. I had come in late from helping my brother Jacob with a calving that didn't want to go right. My boots were still on. There was straw on my pants. I remember the exact spot on the floor where I stood because there was a small dark stain on the pine board from where Anna had spilled beet juice the summer before, and we never got it all out. Rebecca was at the table with her hands wrapped around a mug, not drinking, just holding. She didn't look up when I came in. She said my name, Joseph, and then she said, in Pennsylvania Dutch, I can't do this anymore. I want a divorce. That's the whole sentence. 8 words. She didn't cry. She didn't raise her voice. She said it like she'd been turning the words over in her mouth for a year, smoothing them down, until they came out small and clean. And I just stood there, my jaw locked up. The straw on my pants felt loud somehow. I could hear the clock on the mantel ticking, and I couldn't hear my own breath. I sat down across from her. I asked her, was it me? She shook her head. I asked her, was it the church? She didn't answer. She just looked at her tea. And then she said one more thing. And this is the part I have not told anyone, not even my brother. She said, I have not felt like myself since Anna was born. And nobody hears me, not even God. Then she stood up, kissed the top of my head the way she used to when we were first married, and went upstairs to bed. I sat in that chair for 2 hours. I watched the lamp burn down. And somewhere in those 2 hours, fear became something else in me, something colder. I told myself I was going to save her. I told myself the bishop would know what to do. I put my coat on at 4 in the morning, and I walked out into the frost. What I did not understand, what I would not understand for a long time, was that Rebecca had not been asking me to fix her. She had been telling me she was drowning. Those are not the same thing. In our community, when a woman speaks the way she spoke, we hear rebellion. We hear outside influence. We hear the devil at the door. We do not hear help me. We do not hear I am sick in a way the T's cannot reach. Neither of us understood that what was happening inside her had a name. It had a name in the English world. It did not have one in ours. I learned later, much later, that the midwife's sister in the next county had felt the same after her 3rd child and had walked into the pond behind their barn one March morning. They pulled her out alive. Barely. Nobody talked about it. The men called it a spell. The women called it the heaviness. And the Brousher came and prayed over her and made her drink something with St. John's wort and motherwort and a little valerian root, and she got better, slowly. But nobody said the word the English use. Nobody said postpartum. Nobody said depression. Because in our world, the name of a thing gives it power, and we did not want to give that thing any more power than it already had. My grandfather would have understood her, I think. I want to believe that. He knew tinctures for the heart sickness, that's what he called it, and he made them quietly for women who came to the back door after dark. But Gross Daddy had been gone 4 years by then, and I went to the bishop instead. Continue. The bishop came to our house before noon, him and the deacon and Minister Stoltzfus, all 3 in their black coats, sitting in our front room on the bench Dad had built for our wedding. Rebecca came down the stairs slow. She had braided her hair tight. She had put on her good apron. She knew. She looked at me once across the room, and in that look I learned what betrayal tastes like. It tastes like the inside of your own mouth. Dry. Metal. They spoke to her for an hour. They quoted scripture. They told her the children needed a mother whose mind was set on the Lord. They told her these thoughts came from the English world leaking in, and then they told her she would be placed under the ban, shunned, if she spoke of divorce again. Rebecca nodded. She did not cry. When they left, she went to the kitchen and made supper. Cabbage and pork and bread. She set my plate in front of me. She did not eat. For 9 months after that, our house ran the way a clock runs when the spring is broken. The hands still move, but nothing inside is right. Rebecca got up. She fed the children. She kneaded bread on Tuesday and washed on Monday, and went to church on the off Sundays, and she did not speak to me unless the children were in the room. She slept on the far edge of the bed. I built a system around her silence, the way you build a fence around a field you can't plow. I started taking my coffee out to the barn before sunrise, so I wouldn't have to watch her not look at me. I told myself she was healing. I told myself the bishop knew best. That was the lie I needed to keep eating breakfast. My brother Jacob came by one Saturday to help me reshingle the wash house. And halfway through the morning, up on that roof, he said, "Rebecca looks thin, Joseph." 7 words. I drove a nail in crooked and didn't answer. It was Jacob who told me, finally, about his own wife, Mary. We were sitting in the wood shop in November, sharpening blades, and he said it without looking up. Mary went under too, after our second. He said his gross mammy had come and stayed for 6 weeks. She had made Mary sit in the sun every morning, even when it was cold. She had fed her a tea of oat straw and lemon balm, and a tincture from a brown bottle she never named. She had made Mary talk, really talk, every night before bed. Gross mammy said the heaviness eats women who are kept too quiet. That's what Jacob said. He said it to the blade in his hand, not to me. And then he said, "I should have told you sooner." And give me a second. I had to set the file down. I had to walk out behind the shop and stand by the woodpile until my chest opened up again. 4 winters had passed by then. 4 winters of Rebecca sleeping on the far edge of the bed. And nobody had told me. Nobody had said the word. The word came to me on a Wednesday in March. I had driven the buggy into town for nails and a new harness strap, and I stopped at the feed store, and there was an English woman there, a young one, maybe 30, with a baby on her hip, and she was talking to the owner's wife about her sister. She said the word plain, postpartum depression. She said her sister had it after both her babies. She said there was medicine for it, and there was talking doctors for it, and there were women's groups for it, and her sister was alive because of all 3. I stood by the bin of horseshoe nails and I could not move. The owner's wife saw me. She must have. I was standing there with my hand frozen in the air. I bought the nails. I drove home. I did not tell Rebecca. I sat in the barn that night until the lamp ran dry. For the boy I had been, the boy who walked through the frost at 4 in the morning thinking 3 men in black coats could fix his wife, I felt a grief I do not have good words for. He thought he was being a good husband. He thought obedience and love were the same thing. The land doesn't lie, Dat used to say, but the people on it sometimes do, even to themselves. I sat with that for weeks. I did not feel angry at the bishop. I did not feel angry at Dat. I felt the old, soft sorrow of a man who finally understands that the rule he was raised inside was not built to hold what his wife was carrying. The Ordnung is good for many things. It is not good for the heaviness. That's what the old ones knew, the ones like Gross Daddy and Jacob's gross mammy. But their knowing had gone into the ground with them, and nobody had written it down. I tried to tell an Englishman once, a driver who took me to a horse auction in Ohio. I told him a little, not all of it. He listened, he nodded, and then he said, "Why didn't you just take her to a doctor?" And I could not explain. I could not explain that in our world, taking your wife to an English doctor for her mind is the same as telling the whole community she is broken. I could not explain that I had been raised to believe the men in black coats knew more than any doctor with a degree. I could not explain that I had loved my wife and failed her in the same motion, with the same hands. The driver was kind. He just didn't have the shape inside him to hold what I was saying. I rode the rest of the way home in the back seat and watched the fence posts go by. What I carry from that life, what is still good, is real. I carry the smell of cut hay in July, the way it rises off the field in the heat and gets in your clothes for days. I carry the sound of my dat's voice praying in Dutch at the supper table, the low rumble of it that I will hear in my bones until I die. I carry the taste of cold spring water from the pump behind the house, the kind of water you cannot buy anywhere, the kind that tastes like the ground itself. The plain life gave me those things. It gave me a wife I loved and still love. It gave me children who know how to work and how to pray. I am not here to tell you the Amish are wrong. I am here to tell you that some kinds of suffering need more than what one tradition holds. Rebecca is still my wife. We are still here. 2 years ago, with Jacob's help, quietly, the way these things move in our world, we found a midwife who knew an English woman, a counselor, who would come out to the house. Rebecca talks to her on Thursdays. She takes a small pill the counselor's doctor prescribed. She also still drinks her teas, lemon balm, oat straw, the brown bottle tincture Jacob's gross mammy taught her about, the one I think now is mostly motherwort and St. John's wort, and something else nobody will tell me. Wisdom dressed in plain clothes, that's what those teas are. And the pill is wisdom dressed differently. Both sit on our windowsill. Both belong there. That's what the old ones knew. Even if they didn't have all the words, healing comes from where it comes from, and you do not turn it away because of the coat it wears. If you are a man who told on the woman you loved because you thought the rule would save her, I see you. If you grew up somewhere a wife's sadness was called a spell and never called by its real name, I see you. You carry something old, and that is enough to begin from. You are not the villain of your own story. You were a son raised by sons raised by sons, and none of you were given the words. If you are still inside the community, and your wife has gone quiet, listen closer. If you left and you are still angry, that anger is grief wearing a louder coat. If you are English, and something in this story is pulling you back toward the old ways, bring the old ways with you, but bring the new ones too. If your grandfather knew a remedy for the heart sickness and never wrote it down, ask the oldest woman in your family before she goes. If you lost someone the bishop or the doctor or both could not save, I am sitting in that kitchen with you. Wherever you are in this, I see you, and you are not alone. Tell me in the comments, was there a moment in your house when somebody spoke and nobody knew how to hear them? Tell me what your family carried for the heaviness, the teas, the prayers, the silences. There is so much more I haven't said yet. There are remedies I haven't been ready to share, about Rebecca's grandmother, about the Brockshire who came to our farm the spring Anna was born, about the brown bottle that sits on my windowsill now. But I'm getting closer. If you want to hear those, stay with me here at Furring. Subscribe so the next one finds you. And if a super chat or membership feels right, that is you telling me these old ways, and the new ones we are learning to set beside them, are worth remembering. Love her louder than the rule, before the rule outlives her.